Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm your host on today's ActorsE chat show, Roxy She, and today I have a very, very special treat for everybody watching today. Alan Sizzler Kistler. Now, this gentleman right here, I just gotta tell you a few things. He's a journalist, an actor, and a comic historian. Now, when I first heard that you're a comic historian, I was like, oh, he's a comedian that does historian stuff. But no, you're actually a wealth of knowledge behind comic books, an encyclopedia of basically everything that's out there ever known. Now, you made geeky sexy, right?
I like to think that I'm one of the people who do. I didn't start it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll take some credit, sure. I'll take all the credit. Why the hell not?
Now, Alan, tell me, how did this obsession start? Not obsession, but this transition. You have a very specific kind of almost genre or job category, a specification in what you do.
Well, I love pop culture all across the board. And I just happen to focus on comic books because, that's one major thing that I got involved in very early. Star Trek, Star Wars, I enjoyed those. I didn't go behind the scenes until much later. But comic books, from the beginning almost, I just had a really unique experience of when I got into comics, it turned out an uncle of mine had been collecting for years, and so I went through all this stuff, and within just a couple months, 8-year-old me got to know the 70s and the 80s of various characters. And I was able to see very quickly how things change when an editor changes, when a writer changes. And I would talk to my grandfather about, oh, Captain America did this weird thing. And he would tell me, oh, well, at the time Watergate was happening. So this is obviously a parallel to that. So to me, immediately I was seeing comic books as symbolic of American politics and how society changes and what we want and what we dream about, what we're afraid of. And I just found that fascinating. I couldn't phrase it like that at 8 years old, but I got the sense of that's what's here. And so I just never stopped researching that as we went through things and as I got older.
So it basically became almost like a mirror of what's happening in popular culture and also recent events.
Yeah, and I'd say the best science fiction does that anyway. I mean, the science fiction, it's sort of like fashion, actually.
Right.
It's what we imagine we are and what we hope we can be.
That's very interesting, the way that you say that is fashion and comic books. So recently you went to Comic-Con, that was just this past weekend.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question. I mean, comic books, there's vintage ones that you could collect. Back in the day, they're very tangible. Nowadays, we're kind of evolving into this kind of media stage and sort of computer generation where everything has become online. Now, do you think there's something that's being lost in that? Or do you feel like the comic book popularity is still forever strong?
Comic books are in a weird, you're really right on it. It's just, it's a weird place right now. It's a weird time for comics right now. I still really love holding something physically and saying, look at this art, look how beautiful it is.
Right.
I think the biggest problem right now, I could see it evolving to a digital platform completely. And there are some comics out there that really work on a digital platform. DC's doing some great job with Smallville Season 11 and Batman 66, and those work digitally. It's a really different experience than holding it physically. But a lot of comics still are drawn to be a comic book, and they're not drawn to be translated very well onto a tablet form. So other comics, you are missing something, or you've got to resize it, or certain things that look great on a page don't really work on the tablet because it's focusing on one panel at a time.
Yeah.
So we're still going through some growing pains, and
there's Smallville right there.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Brian Q. Miller writes that, and I just think we need to push it further in terms of what we can do with this new medium. And there'll always be physical comics, absolutely. The Kindle and the Nook have not destroyed physical books. Even people who read off the Kindle and the Nook will buy a physical copy because they want it autographed or just because there's something about it that's still cool to have on your bookshelf. So it's not going away, but.
Yeah, okay, we have a question from the audience.
Yes, one of the chatters says, Alan, how do you keep so much knowledge in your head to know which person wrote which comic?
Alan, how do you maintain all this knowledge inside that glorious head of yours?
Drugs.
And by that he means candy.
Yes.
Chocolate, right?
I've just always had a really weird memory, which has been very helpful in learning lines when I'm acting.
Is it photographic?
My girlfriend thinks so. I have not been actually tested for it. But no, actually, here's a perfect example. I was at Comic-Con, and a girl came up to me and said, hey, I just want to tell you I really love your videos and what you do. And I looked at her for a second, and I just immediately knew, and I said to her, I met you 3 years ago at San Diego at the DC booth, and you were wearing a Supergirl costume. And she said yes.
Shut up.
No, I seriously did. And there are times where I'm like, why do I know that? But
You know, it's kind of creepy, but it's super cool at the same time.
that does not work. That does not work across the board. I will also forget, like, oh right, that person asked me to do this Tuesday, and it's Thursday.
Oh, so this is
So,
your
like-
vlog that you have right now, and this is what she was talking about, like how much she loves like your new video log that you have up right now.
She was talking about this and my old stuff that I've done with Tim Gunn, and just a lot of different projects I've done.
You're so famous.
For a very, very unique subset of culture, I'm famous.
Okay.
Stan Lee does not know who I am. We've met twice. He's lovely, but he does not know who I am.
Oh my gosh, now I'm pretty sure he'll remember you after a while. Yes, we have another
So
question.
just to clarify, one of our chatters says, when you say drugs, you were kidding, right?
Of course.
What did you get?
Yeah. One of our chatters says you meant vitamins, really.
I do take vitamins. I do take vitamins, and I drink lots of tea.
And water. Yes, water is sustenance. Okay, anyways, that's Stan Lee right there.
The man.
The legend, the icon.
Great
the
guy.
one that created basically all of these popular icons in pop culture and in comic books that actually what I want to talk to you about is the trend in superhero movies. The ones that have been regurgitated, recycled, just this franchise that has just been in Hollywood just rolling and rolling and rolling again. Like Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, right? That was out for with the Sam Raimi one, right? And that was out for a trilogy. And then a year later, or a very few years later, they decided to revamp it back with the Andrew Garfield version,
Right?
And then even now there are talks of doing a new Batman trilogy, even though Dark Knight has just wrapped up. Now, people will always make money off of superhero movies.
Of course. And I absolutely take. I think it's silly for some people when they're looking at a comic book or a certain kind of movie to say, oh, they only want to make money. Yeah, they want to make money. They're selling a product.
Right.
Writers would like to make money. Artists want to make money. So we can't just complain at that. But it can get weird sometimes when you have a reboot right after or something that seemed to be okay. Spider-Man's kind of weird because it's a decade from the first Spider-Man movie, but it is only a couple of years after the third one. So you feel like, well, wait, didn't we just finish this story, or can't we still tell more about it?
Yeah. Okay, so it's like, do you feel like it'll always make money in a sense? Like, no matter how poorly it's made, as long as there's the icon that's there?
No, I honestly don't.
Okay.
I think there are, because the thing is, we look at the successes. We look at The Dark Knight. We look at the Spider-Man trilogy. We look at the X-Men films. But we've also had along the way Ghost Rider and other films that just flop.
Okay.
You're watching that.
Oh. Sorry, I thought there was usually a slate. Sorry, my bad. All right, guys, we were watching ActorsE on ActorsEntertainment.com. I'm your host, Roxy Shee, with Alan Sizzler Kistler. Blah, blah, blah. The coffee's making me crazy. We'll be right back after this sponsored message. Check it out.
The great thing about NNow Media is a one-stop shop. We are soup to nuts. We have writers, directors, producers, animators, motion graphics artists, editors, videographers, musicians, all under one roof. And we are a boutique creative house where we actually do the creative at much more affordable price and have the staff in-house to execute it professionally. My name is John Palacio.
My name is Luz Montez.
My name is Paul Robinson.
I am Jesse Cervantes.
I'm Curtis Peel.
My name is Ben Jorin.
One of the most common questions we have from potential clients is, how does it work? What happens when you engage NNow Media to create a video, a marketing campaign?
It first starts with, obviously having the phone conversation with the client.
Brainstorm with them to come up with a really good concept and a really good idea to push whatever they're trying to do to the next level.
Only with that in mind can we really try to tailor a concept and a script for their exact audience that fits in with their branding and the message they want to tell.
We'll storyboard it out, get a real rough idea.
of what we want to do.
We'll then present the client with a couple of options, different ways that we could go with some of the things that we've come up with.
And they'll say this is good, and then we'll come back and we'll start animating that or designing it or editing it.
Our clients are generally, like to be really hands-on, and we'd like to hear from you kind of all along the board. There's no surprises.
What we like to do with every partner is we actually create a page on the NNow website.
So they can give feedback, and that way when the time we get to the final product, usually there's not a whole lot more revisions to do because we've already been working together the whole time.
The big difference is that real personal creative touch.
We have a creative group that can execute that vision, whether it's animation, video, motion graphics, and do so with some unique creative that is custom tailored to that business.
Dream it up. It's video. It's magic. It can happen.
Hi everybody, welcome back to ActorsE Chat. I'm your host Roxy Shee, and we are here with the amazing Alan Kistler, who is here educating us. Thank you so much, Douglas, about everything regarding comic books. And what you just saw was an NL Media sponsor, and we could go to Actors Reporter to check out all of our promo codes and check out all of our lovely sponsors today. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Look at all that. Check it out. Open up a new window. Make sure you stay on this show right here. Ba-ding! All right. So, Alan, we got a question from a chatter during our break.
Excellent.
Who is your favorite superhero?
Honestly, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in, because that's the beauty of the superhero genre, is it's not actually one strict genre. There are so many subsets of it. If I'm in the mood for something kind of dark and noir, it'll be a certain kind of Batman detective story. If I want high-flying adventure, it might be a different Batman detective story from like the 60s or 50s where he's going to the moon and fighting aliens. It might be Superman. I love Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash. Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four hold a special place in my heart, as does Thor and a few others. It just really depends on what kind of mood I'm in, and I think that's the wonderful thing about comics, is the variety.
Do you think Justice League or the Avengers are better?
I think it's got to be what you want. Which I know sounds like such a political answer. Like, I don't want to offend anyone, but no, I think it's about what you want. If I want a team that's a little more argumentative and it's a little more about interpersonal drama, then I want the Avengers, because the house that Marvel built is all about these heroes who, when they meet each other, initially would fight, and then like, okay, you're all right. Well, Hulk and I can team up. Whereas DC, it's a little different now, but traditionally their heroes tend to get along better together. So they'd go out to a picnic, fight crime, and then invite the girlfriends to the picnic or the boyfriends to the picnic, whichever.
Right. We have a question from the audience.
Yes, our chatter wants to know, so if they wanted to get started writing or designing a comic, what are your suggestions?
So there's a question, they say...
They can hear me.
Oh, they can hear you now.
So I say start writing and drawing, which sounds like a jerk thing to say, but no, I'm completely serious. If you want to start writing and drawing your own comic, start it. Start it right now. Create it. Show your friends, and ask for honest criticism. Ask for feedback, because the first 10 things you do of anything is not going to be as good as what you'll do the next 10 things, and so on and so on. So just start it up. There are so many people who have this great idea for a novel or a comic. It's like, oh, I just need to get it right. I just need to design this character perfectly, and they never do anything with it. You've got to do something with it. And if enough of your friends start digging it, scan it. Put it on a blog.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Alan, I do have a question for you. When you were so into like comic books, as a young kid, have you ever thought about becoming an artist yourself?
Sure. I used to draw constantly. I used to always have a sketch pad with me.
Right.
I've recently started drawing again. But the drawing, as I got older, by the time I got into high school, I realized this was a hobby. This was something I loved. But it was not something I necessarily wanted to do as a job. I just didn't have that exact drive. What I realized during high school was I was actually more interested in writing and coming up with the stories behind it. And designing some characters, but not necessarily drawing them 10 times over in different poses. I think that's a remarkable talent and drive to have.
It is amazing. And we have another question.
If the chatter says, if I've developed a character before I let the world see it, should I copyright it somehow?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a real story behind it, and it's not just a couple of funny guys going for it. Sure, you can look into copywriting things. It's not that hard to look into how to trademark a character, how to copyright a character. But definitely look up what is necessary for owning the idea. Because
Right.
God knows, if you start getting into the comic book history, you learn about so many fantastic people who created these beautiful characters. And even if you know their name, they might not be making any money off of it, or they might have been forgotten for a long time. Stan Lee does not actually own the characters of Spider-Man and Batman, of Spider-Man and the X-Men, because he was an employee for Marvel. Marvel owned those. Now, Stan Lee's a smart businessman. He's made money in other ways. But that was that. Batman was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. A lot of people don't know who Bill Finger is. And that's a tragedy.
So, coming off of your research for, like, I was going to say hundreds and hundreds of years, but like years of your life.
I'm immortal.
What? You're immortal. Can you tell me what are the elements that make up a superhero? Like, what creates a superhero? What are the characteristics? Oh, Batman!
Oh, yeah, Bob Kane. There he is. There
That's
he
great.
was.
That's freaking amazing.
Well, I think, everyone's got their own kind of definition about superhero, but in my mind, it's someone who does have a double identity. This isn't their job. They're not being paid for this. So, like a SHIELD agent, even though they have a costume, I'm reluctant to call them a superhero, because
Right.
it's basically like you're being in the military. You might be heroic, but this is a job. And I also think you don't necessarily have to have powers, but you are in an exaggerated reality. So I consider Batman a superhero because while he doesn't have powers, he will fight aliens and time travel. And one of his best friends is an alien from Krypton, and one of his best friends is an Amazon princess made of clay. Like, that's the reality he works in.
Right.
So I totally consider him a superhero. The other thing is, I think you've got to be heroic, which means you've got to be proactive, and you've got to have some principles. If a character is, if they're an exaggerated reality, but they're killing left and right, that's more of an anti-hero to me, because they might be stopping villains, but the Punisher, I don't consider him a superhero.
Right. So, in any case, just developing on your wealth of knowledge from here on out, I'm sorry, do all of these characters experience some sort of a conflict in the beginning of their lives that lead them to become vigilantes? Or some of them was like born with it, like natural powers, aliens, Superman,
Well, it's interesting. There are definitely waves of it. It used to be that a lot of characters would get powers or equipment in some weird way, and they would decide, I'm going to help people because it's the right thing to do. And somewhere in really the 80s, after stories like The Dark Knight Returns and The Watchmen, which were certainly popular and they should be popular, but a lot of people started trying to imitate kind of the wrong things, where they were just like, well, those are popular. What made them popular? They're very violent, so obviously that's what made them popular. No, there was more to it than that. But we started doing this thing where we started inserting more tragedy and trauma into the lives of superheroes. So Green Lantern used to be a guy who was just a really good pilot, and he was a heroic pilot, and so he was chosen to be the Green Lantern by these aliens.
Right.
Now he's a guy who saw his father die in front of his eyes.
Right.
And he's still a good pilot and all, but they added in this trauma.
And that's the Watchmen right there.
Yep, very influential book, for better or worse.
We have a question from the audience.
Yes, one of the chatters wants to know, what about music? Any particular music that goes with different comics? How do you choose your music?
I am all about that. I think everyone should have a comic book soundtrack, honestly. If you're reading some huge Avengers story where Kang the Conqueror has come from the 40th century and is bringing an army of God knows what, play some Star Wars music in there, man. Play some Star Wars stuff. If you're reading like a real inspirational Superman story, grab the John Williams stuff. If you're going into more the magic end, like John Constantine or something, put on The Cure. Put on some like nice depression, like, oh, life is so hard, but we can
Angsty
still get
music.
through it.
Angsty music, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, fit the atmosphere of what you're going for.
All right, and we're going to take a little break. When we come back, Alan, I'm going to segue into more of your biographical life, about your biography, and more about you. He's been educating us so much. So you're watching ActorsE on ActorsEntertainment.com. I'm Roxy Shi, Alan Kistler, and woo, Twilight Zone. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
Hi, I'm Anna Shaw Ray, here to share with you a terrific online gift store, ActorsStore.com. ActorsStore is an online art colony of completely original and absolutely affordable gifts and fine art. ActorsStore is particularly fun because it includes many unique and one-of-a-kind gifts, cards, and wall art that you can't get anywhere else. For example, in the gift section, ActorsStore carries beautiful apparel art ties. Yes, art ties. Ties hand-decorated with jewelry, fringe, beads, and all sorts of stuff. Animal art ties, art deco ties, music ties, you name it. And best of all, the ties are for both men and women and can be worn well with a pair of jeans or in a tux. ActorsStore also has inspirational corporate jungle posters. Joe Sabatino likes the poster of the hippo. He put it on his refrigerator to remind him of what not to look like. Yes, clown art, custom airbrush t-shirts, hand-knit scarves, photography, handmade decorated soaps, and more, all on one site, ActorsStore.com. I especially enjoy the artwork by Brennan's section of ActorsStore. Brennan offers his artwork on note cards, mugs, and wall art, whether it's cocktail ladies, a smoking clown, or Ben and Becky's art for a child's room. Brennan's unique watercolor or pen and ink art will be perfect for the occasion. And when you use the discount code ActorsReporter at checkout, you'll get 10% off your entire ActorsStore order. ActorsStore.com. That's spelled ArtIstor. That's ArtIstor. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. ActorsStore.com for all your unique gift needs.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to ActorsE. Make sure to go to ActorsReporter.com and check out our promo page and look at our Actors discount link for all of these awesome promos from all of our sponsors. It is so great. Make sure to check it out. Open up a separate window because you want to stay on the show. We are back with Alan Kistler, and I am your host, Roxy Shi. And we were just talking about just all of these trends in popular culture and comic books and just what's been changing in our ever-evolving society. Now, Alan, let's take us back to, I'm very interested to know about this because you kind of created like this own personal identification for yourself in terms of working, you know, and as a job. When did you start finding your audience? How did you build your audience? And how do people come to you?
I'd been writing on different websites since high school. And right after college, I was writing for a site called Monitor Duty. Mm-hmm. And basically, they had asked me, well, because you remember all this history and stuff, and there are people out there who want to read a comic and maybe they don't know that character's history or that character's background, could you do a history article on it? And I'd done a lot of that before for a few years, and I just decided, that's actually kind of boring, especially because Wikipedia now existed.
Right.
And I thought, well, they can just look there. Why don't we go behind the scenes? Why don't I talk about if someone really had their powers changed or something? Mm-hmm. Why did that happen? What happened to the different editors? How did different people view things about Superman, about Batman, and how did this lead to the creation of new characters? Or suddenly Lex Luthor is from Smallville. You know, where did all that come from? And once I started talking about that,
and that's Monitor Duty, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Keeping an eye on geek news. That is so awesome.
Yeah, they're good people. And so I just started talking about that and focusing on that. And also, one thing I wanted to make sure was I noticed that more websites I saw just assumed you had a basic knowledge of certain superheroes, would assume that you would know who certain people were. And I don't like that. I think it gets weirdly into a geek elitism. So I wanted to write everything, and I think I've done this pretty consistently, as if maybe you've never read this comic, but that's okay. We're going to tell you the basics, and you can follow along.
Right. We have a question from the audience.
Yes, one of the chatters wants to know, where do we find you online?
Pretty easily, AlanKistler.com. And that's an archive of my work. It gets updated fairly frequently, and that also tells you when I'm going to appear next at different conventions. I do have a Facebook page. It's becoming a little crowded, and
You're so popular
good
and
thing.
famous.
Twitter is a good place to follow me. I'm constantly tweeting. I will occasionally live tweet during bad movies. I was rocking
That's
out during
great.
Sharknado recently.
Oh my gosh, Sharknado. So awesome.
I will never love a child the way that a character in Sharknado loved a bar stool. I know that now. That's a failing of mine. It's something I will deal with. But no, so once I started writing these articles, people really seemed to like it. And so they started asking about more articles, and then they started linking to me. And I decided, well, I've got to push this. So I would go to message boards where people, if they were into that character or into even that genre of superhero, I would just go on a message board like, hey, anyone who's interested, you might like this. And there was no pressure, and I didn't spam them. I just brought a few things to their attention. And maybe some people ignored it, but some people didn't. And then they shared it with their friends.
Wow.
And I think you've got to have a great interaction. Like on Twitter, I don't just put up links of I did this, and I did this, and I did this. I'll ask people questions. I'll bring up a topic of debate. And I like to interact with my followers. And I think that really helps brand yourself, because then they want to tell their friends, hey, there's this cool guy. We got into this great conversation. Even though we disagreed, he wasn't a jerk about it, so we're okay. And
friendly exchange of knowledge, right?
That I really want the internet to do more of a friendly exchange of knowledge. I like intelligent people who disagree with me.
Yes. And that's you with Jessica Mills?
Yes, where we met on Twitter.
Oh, fun!
We met on Twitter.
That is so awesome.
She is a fantastic geek. This is from her show, Awkward Embraces, that she did for a couple of seasons. She wrote and produced it and starred in it. Great, great show. And yeah, she and I just found ourselves simpatico on a lot of things. Grace Randolph here was working for Marvel when I met her, and she had seen my videos with Tim Gunn and other people, so now I frequently appear on her show on Think About the Ink.
Yes, that's great. Oh my God, Tim Gunn, my favorite.
Tim
Is this
Gunn.
where you're discussing fashion and comic books?
Yeah, in this episode, I believe we're talking about Star Trek, and that's my friend and occasional co-host, Jennifer Ewing, wonderful actress. And yeah, Tim, I just approached him one day and said, I think it would be really fun to talk about this.
And what did he think?
Yeah, I mean, he immediately loved the idea. I asked him, tell me if you don't have time for this. Tell me if you don't have time to sit with a geek and talk about what the fashion of Star Trek means and how superhero costumes have evolved. But he loved it. He actually has a good respect for science fiction and for superheroes. He enjoys science fiction.
Completely. I mean, you look at the costumes that we see nowadays in Man of Steel and like Dark Knight, you think that they don't have the same appeal as they did. Well, the older costumes don't have the same appeal as they did and nowadays in our new movies. It's like Superman lost his little triangle, like red
his trunks.
outerwear. Yeah.
I mean, I think that also depends on what kind of genre you're going for. Oh, and this is Jill Pantozzi, the wonderful nerdy bird, as she calls herself. She's the co-host on Crazy Sexy Geeks. We are co-hosts together. This is from an upcoming web show that I've scripted with a few friends. And this is called Just Super, and it's basically Bridget Jones gets powers and it doesn't improve her life. That's kind of the pitch. And it was originally going to be a different cast, but I have been wanting to write a female buddy comedy for a long time. So,
that's me in the middle.
So yeah, I asked if we could make the three leads all women, and yeah, we did it.
Let me ask you about that. Women in comic book or graphic novel history.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about like how the role has kind of transformed nowadays? Just like because women, race, all these things have been seen as different.
Sure.
Have been seen differently, and with all these new changes in our culture and how rights and sexualization of women or sexualization of superheroes has kind of evolved. What are some trends that you're seeing? And you're talking about wanting to do a Wonder Woman movie, that they should do.
I would love that.
Yeah, like why and how has it changed?
Why? Because it should happen.
Right.
We should have a Wonder Woman movie. We just should. It's ridiculous to me. See, I grew up in an era where I just thought, okay, women are awesome because I had She-Ra. I had Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
I had Sarah Connor. And
look at how awesome she is.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's Amazonian, like goddess.
And the thing is, she's a great character with a great message, and she's unique among a lot of superheroes. So that to me says easy formula for a good movie. Let's go for it.
There was almost a TV show that came out for Wonder Woman.
Yes,
didn't make it.
I saw the pilot.
How was it?
Not great. The cast was good. You had an excellent cast, but the story was not there. The direction was not there. And I think most importantly, they were, and this has happened a couple times, they try to get you to relate to the character so much, which is
Right.
important, but they almost overcompensate and forget, oh, but this is supposed to be a hero.
Right.
And they forget to make you root for them and really, really care about them beyond, oh, they're just like me. And you need that in a superhero story. And women and how minorities are treated as well. I think we've had this weird backwards evolution for the past decade. And we're trying to fight back against that now. Because, I mean, they were rocking out for a while. And now it's really hard to find a female-led superhero book from one of the major companies. And it's hard to find one who isn't overtly sexualized in their costume. And I don't mean that they can't look attractive. Superheroes are, in general, romantic ideals.
Right.
You know, it's remarkable that Batman and Spider-Man and Iron Man are all very handsome men underneath the mask. Like, that's part of the ideal.
It's all coinky-dink.
Yeah. It's like Superman has powers and is built. Like, that's fantastic. And so I have no problem with the women being attractive or women being athletic, but there is a step forward where you can overtly sexualize a character. And if it's in character, obviously, there's a character, Emma Frost, she can wear whatever she wants.
She is beautiful.
Because that's what she is. That's her character. But there are other characters where I just think this is not something she would wear, or for the atmosphere, this is not practical to the atmosphere. You're not being true to what this character is supposed to be about.
I really want a Black Widow movie.
We should have a Black Widow movie.
We should have a Black Widow movie. It's like the Avengers, there's like sequels made about the other 3 or 4 of them.
She's got a good backstory. She was very popular in the movie. We should absolutely have a Black Widow movie. We should have a Captain Marvel movie with a current female Captain Marvel. There's Emma Frost, who I'm talking about.
Oh, Emma Frost, yeah. She was played by January Jones in the recent
in First Class.
Yeah,
in First
definitely.
Class. Yeah, I would have gone for Leslie Bibb. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, what has she been doing?
Right?
She's she looks great. She's awesome. I completely agree with you on that aspect. Okay, sorry, just bringing.
And this is a project that's coming out soon, the Noob Chronicles. This is really Jessica Mills' project, but I've been editing it and having a great time with it. Jessica, while a huge geek, not an experienced gamer, and so she's trying out BioShock for the first time, and it is
that her reaction?
That is her reaction to an explosion happening and an enemy she did not realize was there.
Oh, girl!
I love it. This is again from one of my videos where I was discussing the psychology of superheroes like Batman and Robin, and can you categorize them as crazy? Travis Langley here. That other group was Broadcast Thought. This is Dr. Travis Langley. He and I do a lot of panels together.
That's great. So what is the psychology behind it? There's always a motivation behind what they're doing. Like, they were often wrong before.
Right.
You know, it's always very character-based. What you're saying is exactly right.
It's got to be character-based.
Yeah.
If they're doing it just because
they're better than people, like, just because I have powers, like,
right. And you can explore that, but then that generally is not a superhero. I mean, like, there's a character, Booster Gold, who's basically doing this because he wants to be famous and loved, and that's hilarious, and they play that for comedy.
Really? Booster Gold?
Yeah.
Wait, give us a little bit of insight behind this character.
I mean, he's just a guy, he's from the 25th century who washed up, and he can't be cool in the 25th century, he's too well known, but he goes back in time to our modern day. Gold. And he figures, well, with future technology, I basically have powers. So obviously people will love me, I'll be an amazing superhero. But he's just such a jerk and so self-centered. And even when he gets heroic later, there are different factors where he can't totally be in public about it, which just destroys his ego.
No.
He would love people to know about how cool he's become. And he can't tell anyone, and you can play for that. But a lot of heroes, I think it's really just a motivation of, this world can be better.
Right.
And I want to prevent other people from going through, if they had a traumatic experience, I want to prevent other people from going through what I went through. That's definitely a major thing of Batman. It's not as much I want to hurt bad people, it's I want to protect good people.
Now Batman, hero, anyone can be a hero as long as they do a heroic deed. a superhero,
Right.
how would you define that? Because Batman's a normal human being. He's one of us. We're relatable to him, which is why I think a lot of people, all my friends like Batman, you know.
Batman's a
Cool,
great
everyone like
character.
Batman.
No, Batman's
Yeah.
a fantastic character.
But what defines him as a superhero?
Well, like I said before, I think you have to have this exaggerated reality. You have to live in an exaggerated reality. I do think the costume element is essential.
Can I wear a cape and be a superhero?
Sure.
Awesome.
You still have to do heroic things. You can't just wear the cape. It's not just a fashion choice.
I can't help an old lady across the street.
There are
That's
many,
pretty heroic.
yeah, there are many Kryptonians who wore capes and were not heroes. But also, I think that a real superhero also inspires others. So, like you can see in that Batman pick right there, there are different characters in there that were inspired to do good because of Batman. That's part of the heroic nature.
Oh, that's great.
Is you're actually changing the world. And even the first Superman stories, he's not just fighting crime. The very first two-part story, he takes a war profiteer and has him enlist so that he can see what war is. And he could have just scared him and told him, you know, I'm going to throw you off a rooftop if you don't stop. But he wants him to see for himself what he's doing. He wants to change the world that way. He wants people to be better. He believes we can be better.
Leading by example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big thing of Superman and many heroes.
Well, Alan, you're such an inspiration to me. Now I feel like I could be like, you know, a Xena biographer.
Sure.
You know, I could do anything I want.
Go for it.
We'll be right back in a little moment with Alan Sizzler Kistler. I'm your host, Roxy Shee of Team ActorsE Chat, and we'll be right back after the sponsored message.
Over her long career, Nina Foch appeared in classic films such as Spartacus, The Ten Commandments, and An American in Paris. She received an Academy Award nomination for her performance in Robert Wise's Executive Suite. In 1965, Nina Foch arrived here at USC to begin teaching directing, and I was lucky enough to get into one of her first classes. Even as she continued acting in film and television, Nina's passion for teaching lasted for over 40 years. Her course was immensely popular because she developed her own unique style, drawing on her experiences studying with Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, and Uta Hagen, and being directed by such icons as Vincent Minnelli, Stanley Kubrick, Cecil B. DeMille, and Otto Preminger. As I began directing, the tremendous value of her teachings became evident and how important it was to preserve them for future generations. We became close friends, and at a cinema department event, we ran into my former classmate, George Lucas, who invited us up to Skywalker Ranch, where we discussed creating a DVD of her course. He agreed to finance it, and on January 10th, 2002, we began taping an entire semester using a crew of USC film students. We filmed for 8 hours a week for 15 weeks, and this is the result.
Okay, so what are we going to do this semester?
Hello guys, welcome back to ActorsE Chat. Make sure to go to ActorsReporter.com, click on the Actors Discount link, and scroll down for all the wonderful Actors discounts you can get just by going to ActorsReporter.com. Oh look, it's Dougie, our lovely drummer for the show. Check him out. He's so talented. He makes me feel like I'm actually funny.
Make you feel like you're a drummer.
Thank you. All right, and we're back with Alan Sizzler Kistler, our amazing guest for today, who's been giving us a wealth of knowledge behind the history of superheroes and comic books in general. And now we're going to segue. You are a Renaissance man. You do so many things. You're also an actor and an author and probably all these other things that I'm not even naming right now. So tell me, how did you acted along the way, correct?
Yeah. Actually, I acted in high school and a little bit in college, not a lot. But I kind of gave up on it for a bit just because other things took over and real life took over, although I hate that phrase. But eventually, I auditioned for this little short comedy piece, and it really went off well, and the reviews spoke about me specifically. It was called Like All the Drops of Falling Rain.
Wow, fancy name, like
yes.
All the Drops.
It was way fun, and the company that had the theater, the Queen's Company, the Queen's Players, asked me to be part of the company, so I was with them for a little bit, and we did a few plays together, and I also had acted in several things from One Glass Productions, which is a nice production company in Brooklyn, and they are now the ones filming Just Super, which is the web series that I wrote with my friend Mary Beth.
That is so fantastic. So you're a writer, you're a producer, you're an actor, you're an author. Now, most importantly, let's talk about your writing, because it's what makes your voice get heard, mostly through the internet and now through your books and your writing. Tell us a little bit about your history with your publications.
Well, I've been writing for several websites for a few years and contributing various articles. Like I said, it started with Monitor Duty, and then I went on to doing stuff for MTV Splash Page and Comics Alliance and Comic Book Resources and Wired. And finally, I was approached about doing an unofficial Game of Thrones cookbook, which was way fun to do. I didn't realize at the time that there was an official cookbook coming out, but then once I heard that they were going in a very different direction than what I was trying to do.
Is it literally a cookbook?
Yeah. And I went for a very different audience than what they were going for.
Oh, I see.
And just did my own thing, and I know several professional chefs, and I was able to consult recipes and such like that. So we put together a fun book. Actually, I ran into George R.R. Martin at the Comic-Con.
Oh, the unofficial Game of Thrones cookbook. That is hilarious.
Yep. And I ran into George R.R. Martin.
Wow.
And I introduced myself like, hey, man, I've got to meet you. I love your work, but also I wrote the unofficial Game of Thrones cookbook. And he went, oh, that's great. And we chatted for a bit, and he thinks it's way cool. He thinks it's way fun, and wished me well. And so that was fantastic to hear. And I know I met Lena Headey's agent and signed a copy for
oh my God,
to give
so
to her. And
awesome.
It's funny, like I keep seeing not keep seeing, but on occasion I'll see a few celebrities tweet about it. Like Kaylee Cuoco apparently got it for as a birthday present or something.
Can you share with us some secret recipes? Oh, that's the
there's
man
George.
himself.
There's George. Really lovely guy. Really lovely guy.
A genius, too.
Yes. Vicious with his characters, but a lovely person.
Well, you need to have that balance, People usually write about.
Exactly. So then after that, there was the unofficial Batman Trivia Challenge, the unofficial Spider-Man Trivia Challenge. And those have been way fun. These are all at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I had a couple of pieces. There's the Batman Trivia Challenge. I had a couple of pieces published in the recent Star Trek and History.
Wow.
And I also now have, in October 2013, Doctor Who: A History coming out.
Man, fans will go crazy after that
I hope
one.
so. No. I need the money. No, because I love Doctor Who, and I love the franchise. I love that it is a show that engenders imagination and joy and wonder. And there's the Star Trek and History book, edited by the lovely Nancy Regan.
Fabulous.
And that's actually the cover for the audiobook of Doctor Who: A History, which I will be reading.
That is so great.
Yep.
Wow, Alan, you sure are a busy man.
I need to stay busy. That's the problem with being a freelancer. You've got to stay busy. You've got to keep pitching yourself, or else you got to get a day job. And those, of course, are the 11 Doctors so far. We've got a 12th one coming soon. Perhaps a lady, hopefully a lady.
I always, excuse me, time for, I'm a huge fan of Xena.
Yeah.
But that's because, she was one of the leading ladies
Time
of an
for
action.
a gray-haired old lady.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would be completely fine with that. I would be completely fine with someone who was over the age of 40 or 50 being the new time.
No, I think Pepper would make freaking fabulous superhero.
Go for it. And actually, the creator of Doctor Who, the original creator, Sidney Newman, considered it totally possible for the Doctor to be able to become a woman, and in 1987 said it should happen then.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted it to happen in 1987. He told the BBC, let's make his idea actually for relaunching Doctor Who, for giving some new life into it, was to introduce two new companions who would be teens, or a teen and adolescent, a brother and sister, so you would have a different dynamic.
Right.
And they would get to know the Doctor for a couple of adventures, and then the Doctor would change into a woman. And they would be weirded out by this, but the Doctor wouldn't totally get why they were treating her differently.
Now, Doctor Who is like one of those shows where the lead character would be portrayed by multiple different sorts of actors. And
Sidney Newman.
Sidney Newman.
Sidney Newman, a good man. A good man, we miss him.
I like having Alan here because he could identify everything because he's an encyclopedia. Therefore, I don't have to be rambling craziness underneath my breath. But, you know, it's one of those shows that, like I said, you usually would identify an actor with a character. You know, it's like, oh, you know, he would be playing Superman. He's known, you know, Christian Bale's like the Batman or whatever. But it's just one of those rare shows that has viewer loyalty.
Sure.
Despite the ever-changing actors that portray the character.
Sure.
I think it's the only show that does that, though.
It's the only show that does it in that way, because I mean, certainly we have James Bond, but
oh yes,
but the difference is that James Bond will switch after a couple of years. You know, you'll have a movie, and then a couple of years later you'll have a new James Bond. Whereas with Doctor Who, it's unlike any other show, it's unlike any other franchise, because you know James Bond, the other guy doesn't have to be there when the new guy takes over, and in Doctor Who, that's what happens, where they will have a scene. There have only been a couple of exceptions where the Doctor is regenerating, and then they ask him, okay, get out of here, and they have the new guy film in place. See, right there we've got all the different Bonds, and we understand they're playing the same character, whereas in Doctor Who, it's actually written into the show that he is changing. And you'll have other characters reference, oh, you got a new face again, or oh, you're acting a little differently again.
Right.
And which also means you can have the team-ups, which they've never been able to do with James Bond. And it's one of the
so crazy
wonderful things about Doctor Who.
That's awesome.
Let's tell the people where they can find Alan again online.
All right, let's
start with his website.
Go with your social media, and that's your official website right there.
Yep, AlanKistler.com. You can also find me at Crazy Sexy Geeks on iTunes or at the website crazygeekslipsit.com. The Facebook page, oh, that's the YouTube page, I'm sorry. YouTube, Alan Kistler. That's my Facebook page.
You have too many friends. Would you accept me if I try to add you?
I don't know.
Darn it. Oh, that's me. Everybody check out my one website. Look at that's me modeling. Oh, and that's my Facebook. You should add me because I have no friends. And then that's my Twitter. No one follows me. So
I'll follow you. I'll follow you.
Extremely popular guy. And then there's me. So you guys should definitely check it out. Alan, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You are so exceptional, and you just gave us so much knowledge behind just looking at the superheroes and comic book characters at just a surface or a drawing on a comic book page. It's gone so much deeper than that, and I want to thank you so much. I know everybody out there thanks you as well. So thank you to all our viewers and chatters for joining us today on ActorsE Chat. We're here Monday through Friday from Hollywood, California. And you want to see all of today's show, go to ActorsEntertainment.com, put the talent's name, Alan Kistler, in the search box, or my name. Also visit Actors Entertainment on IMDb and see some of the 850 plus entertainment industry guests. I'm going crazy. And please follow us on Twitter at Actors Entertain. Okay, and Facebook too, Actors Entertainment fan page. And don't forget to like us. And we'll say a special goodbye to Stickam, who closed the site recently. Thank you, Stickam, for more than 4.5 million Actors Entertainment viewers. Stay tuned for Actors Reporter Animation, which won Best Animation from Telly Awards right here. And thank you to Pepper J and Anna Media. And my friend Alan, are we going to do this? Sci-Fi! Guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
What's that? ActorsE Chat Show? Happens to be my favorite. In the morning, I want nothing but a cup of coffee, a bottle of Kahlua, 6 naked girls. Wait, no, that's not right. ActorsE Chat Show.
Oh my gosh. Hey, big Hollywood starlet that just happens to be walking by. Yes. I'm not from around here, but I want to be an actress just like you. What do I need to know? Kid, let me tell you. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a naive newbie like you, there's one thing you need to know. To get my first job, I lived in a slum, beat out 50 other girls to play a drunk bum.
I cried.
My first agent charged me 30%.
Thanks.
Working 3 jobs and I couldn't pay rent, but I'm an actor.
She's an actor.
A shark gnawed my leg on a B film in Sydney. To pay for the stitches, I sold my left kidney. I finally made a union, their rules were complex. Their piles of paperwork fogged up my specs. But I'm an actor.
She's an actor.
I'm an actor. Well, that's rather rather disturbing, but what's the one thing I need to know? Don't listen to the critics. Don't follow all the tabs. Forget that sleazy photog and the agent that's got crabs. Go to Actors Reporter. ActorsReporter.com. Learn the tricks and the secrets without all the sweat. An info-packed one-stop shop. It's free and on the net. Actors Reporter. ActorsReporter.com.
How can they help her?
Career cues, union news, makeup woes, advice from pros, insurance tips, choosing scripts, everything at your fingertips. Actors Reporter. ActorsReporter.com.
I just got a callback.
I'll do it.
Oh, hello. I'm Mary Jo Gruber. Thanks for joining us on ActorsE Live Chat Show. I'm just one of your ActorsE hosts, but as you can see, I'm also the ActorsE Live video editor, which means that I'm here, even when you don't see me. ActorsE is here to chat with you Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or Hollywood time, as I like to call it. Our guests include actors, directors, producers, writers, singers, comics, and others that are all in the entertainment industry. You can see previous shows at www.actorsentertainment.com, and be sure to check out our guest index to find your favorite celebrities. See you next time. I'm working.